Wanted to talk today about my ancestors. When I was growing up, my grandmother wanted me and my cousin to name our firstborn son Gabriel, from one of our ancestors. So I remembered the story a little differently, and it was in conflict with how my aunt remembered the story. So my grandma passed away, and I wanted to get like the accurate story about it because it kind of makes for a great screenplay. And so I am working on, a screenplay of this story. And obviously, if I ever have a son and name him Gabriel, then I sort of want to know the facts, the like perfect facts of my ancestor, right? Of why she wanted me to name him that. So I'll tell you the story I thought, which is a little like it's kind of close to the truth, but like there's so much more to it. So the story that I remembered, I can't even remember what my aunt remembered about this story, but the story that I remembered was that my ancestor Gabriel, whenever he came over to the U.S., he fought in the Revolutionary War. That part is true. But I thought he was a double spy for the Brits and for the American soldiers, the American Revolutionary Rebel soldiers. And I thought that was kind of cool, right? Like Professor Snape, he's a double agent. The story that I remembered was that he changed his last name to his wife's last name because so as not to be found out by the other side, right? And that's kind of that's kind of true too, but in a different way. But I had been like carrying this story thinking like, oh, girl power, change it to your last name, change it to the wife's last name, honey, but it's not quite like that. So, I was lucky. I've been messaging with my Uncle Keith because he had he got my grandma into genealogy, and that's where this whole thing came from. So he's still alive. So we have been messaging on Facebook, and he said either your mom or your grandpa or your Aunt Sheila has it. So it turns out that my Aunt Sheila had it, and she was able to print off a copy and give it to me, like half of the records, and it was all safe, guys. We were all masked. She just dropped it off at our porch. We did not like breathe in each other's faces because of COVID. She also had a little cookout, which was nice, around her fire pit because it is cold out here. We had some snow. I loved it. We had some snow. We never get that in LA, and it was nice. It was cozy. And it was very magical. I had a white Christmas. Loved it. Sheila dropped it off, and I haven't started reading the actual document because it has a lot of like old English type of language. Not old English, maybe, I don't know when it was written, maybe turn of the century, but just older language that's kind of cumbersome to get through. So as Sheila described it, I've been doing some back research on the family because the way my Aunt Sheila described it was they didn't change their name during the war, although he did fight in the Revolutionary War. But the name change was because of a clash of the clans. You probably play that game, right? Some of you guys played that game. But we were part of the McGregor clan in Scotland, and that's why we had to change our name. So I have been trying to do back research on that to get a better understanding because it can be a little convoluted whenever you look into that aspect of it. So I've been researching the McGregor clan, and I want to say too, I know like clan is kind of a bad, like a touchy word now because of the KKK. They're stupid wizards. They give wizards a bad name. So it's not like a racist clan. clans in Scotland, you had these big families, these groups of families that were part of a clan, and in order to prevent inbreeding, you would marry outside of your clan, right? And clans worked together, and it guaranteed that if you not to like inbreed within your village, right? So I was, excuse me, my family that had to change their name, they were part of the McGregor clan, and the McGregor clan got like the short end of the stick. They were hated among the other clans, especially the Campbells. We had a long-standing family feud from the Campbells. Rob Roy was in our it was in the McGregor clan. I'm not sure if he is a direct ancestor of me, but he was in the McGregor clan. I mean, I guess I am related to him if he's a McGregor, but am I related to Ewan McGregor? I don't know. Distantly, I don't know. So there was a long-standing feud between the McGregors and the Campbells, but as I understand it, a lot of other clans, we were disliked by some other clans too, because the crest on our family, the motto on our family crest was "Our race is royal," and so like that was another thing that I had to like trace back, because it was like, hey now, is this a supremacy thing? Is this a lineage thing? Is this an ancestry thing? Like, I gotta see what this is. Is it like a superiority thing, or is it like this is my family bloodline? So as I was researching that, I discovered that they meant that they were part of the bloodline from the first king of Scotland, which is also like a murky history. So I got to take you back to that. And I think they were part of the bloodline. They were from a Griorgor. It's like Old English, Old Scottish, Old Gaelic words, so it's kind of hard for my American ass to say. But before Scotland was Scotland, they were broken up into two different lands, and one side was like Delriata or something, Dayriata, and they were Gaelic people, and they were on the west coast of Scotland. And then there were the Pickland people, the Picts. They were on the east side of Scotland. So that land was undergoing a Viking invasion, and King Mcalpin, the bloodline that the McGregors claimed that they were from, they united the two lands and formed Scotland. They united the two lands in order to fight off this Viking invasion. But McAlpins weren't recognized because people still had beef that they like overtook the Picklands or whatever, overtook the Picts, right? There was saltiness there because I guess people wanted to take credit, right? But like they had to unite those two lands in order to be that force against the Vikings, right? And they like beat them off. Hi, I'm talking about how Scotland was created. So there was saltiness on the other side, so King Mcalpin wasn't even recognized. And then the McGregors got some crap because they wouldn't even acknowledge that they were from King Mcalpin, right? So it's like double, like, I can't be proud of my roots. The Mcalpin story is interesting too, because King Mcalpin, who united Scotland, the two lands, and united it into Scotland, he killed his brothers, which was actually not that uncommon. In Stardust, you have that funny story of Octavius and all the numbers, Septembius or whatever it is, you know. Stardust is an adorable movie, and people who give it crap, I do not understand you. It's a great fairy tale. It's a great story, and I don't know what's wrong with you. It's perfect. It's the perfect story. Whimsical, magical, love it. But anyway, so that was just a tangent that King Mcalpin killed all his brothers. And then something else that's interesting is that along the family bloodline, it eventually came down to a Mcalpin who he didn't have sons as heirs. So he had to give the throne to like a nephew or a grandson. And that grandson or nephew, that relative that wasn't his like son, was King Duncan, and King Duncan was in Macbeth, and so there's a whole like Macbeth King Duncan element to the story. Royalty and lineage. I saw 11:11 again. I've been like seeing it fly past during these readings. But royalty, lineage, and like how the clans are interconnected are so complicated. So that's why I'm doing like the backstory on this, because like getting an understanding about that is hard enough, let alone when they actually migrated to the U.S. So this is just the backstory. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, Macbeth and his wife kill King Duncan and cover it up, right? But I think as a historian explained it, it was like Macbeth actually died of natural causes and King Duncan was the heir to the throne, and then like a domino effect of his like succeeding sons crapped out, and then the throne went to Macbeth's son. So it isn't 100% accurate from the... Sorry, hold on. From the Shakespearean Macbeth account, right? This cute little dog, she's up on the ledge, up on the sofa, kicking my shoulder. Okay, so that's just a little offshoot. It doesn't really have to do with McGregor's, but I just thought it was interesting as far as Shakespeare and Macbeth goes. Macbeth is one of my favorite Shakespearean plays, just from the shame and the guilt, right? How guilt can like eat you alive, washing blood off your hands. Okay, what am I doing next? McGregor's. Okay, so people hated McGregor's because they weren't seen as having royal blood, and even if they did have that royal blood, it was like, well, it wasn't even Scotland yet, and we don't even agree that it was right for you to unite Scotland, and just like haters. So, people had beef with them, especially the Campbells, and the Campbells set them up. The Campbells set up, were working with the Calhouns, and the Campbells and the Calhouns set the McGregors up so that there were like battles, like constant battles, and they set them up in this battle where the Campbells and the Calhouns outnumbered the McGregors. And the McGregors, like, it's pretty amazing that they even survived because they were outnumbered by these two different clans. But unfortunately, during that setup, the McGregors killed a bunch of people and had some schoolboys watch, and then killed the schoolboys. But I mean, it was kind of like what they had to do. Like it was bloody back then, guys. You know. I saw a post on Facebook today that was like, people complaining that 2020 is the worst year. Like, go back to the past. We have had some barbaric past. And I'm about to school you on some barbarianism of the past. It like totally made me mad, made me want to punch a Scottish ghost for all the BS that my ancestors had to go through. So anyway, the Calhouns and the Campbells set them up. They killed these schoolboys, and then the Campbells used that as leverage to, one, get government assistance from the king at the time. The king was King James, I think, like King James the Sixth, I want to say, sixth. So to get like sort of that government assistance from the king, but also to nanny nanny boo boo, look at what the McGregors did. They killed schoolboys, but like I set them up, so blah 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 blah. I'm the one who ganged up on them, but whatever. You can tell I have like a grudge, like reading all this. It was like, how dare you, Campbells? How dare you? So anyway, we became outlawed. The McGregor clan became outlawed, and a lot of us had to change our last name. So that's when my ancestor had to change his last name. It wasn't from a getting married or anything. Also, back up. Want to say something about King Mcalpin, who united the two lands. There were Gaelic people and then the Picts, and the Gaelic Mcalpin had a romance with a Pickling girl, and so he married the Pickling girl, and that's how they united. A lot of diplomacy was done through marriage back in the day. Like Marie Antoinette was from Austria, and Louis was from France, and so the marriage was to unite France and Austria, not necessarily like they love each other, so they're getting married. It was more like these two countries can come together, and so it was more like a business partnership, right? Okay, so let's go to having to change our last names. The McGregors having to change our last names. So that's why it's kind of hard to trace some of the lineage. I mean, I know that we came from the McGregor clan, but I would imagine for some other people and their last names, tracing it back to McGregor might be a little difficult because, we were outlawed. We had to change our last names. The women would get branded on the face so that you knew not to mess with them, not to like fall in love with them, knowing that they're like a McGregor, right? That they're just like, nope, you can't be with that woman. They used the McGregor women's breast milk to feed these black bloodhound dogs, huge dogs. They fed them our breast milk so that they can track down our scent to hunt us down. That's barbaric! And if you got in trouble stealing, then you could just behead a McGregor and give the king their head. Like, that was sort of bail money, was a McGregor head. But we couldn't get baptized. We were sold into slavery. Women and children were sold into slavery. There she goes with her foot again. What else? We couldn't walk in more than groups of 2 or 3. At the time, you needed a special kind of knife to cut your meat, and we weren't allowed to carry those knives. Trying to think of what else. But obviously, like, we were killed and all of that. So I just found it interesting that as far as lineage goes, we had to change our last name, so we couldn't claim that lineage. We couldn't claim that we were from the first king of Scotland because it didn't count and people were salty about it. So it's like, damn, what can I claim? Like, why are you like outcasting my my family? Just let us live. So I haven't even got to the part of Gabriel, my ancestor, where he comes to the U.S. I researched it a little bit, and it's pretty interesting too. I forgot what business he got into, but it was very like obscure whenever he came over here. But he did fight in the Revolutionary War, and he eventually ended up in Pennsylvania, and He worked heavily with the Quakers, but so fascinating. It's like I was not expecting, um, like I was expecting just to write a story about him, but just like writing a story about the whole history and the whole like people. Like the story is just unraveling, unfolding as I look more into it. But it made me also appreciate like how tough we are, how that's sort of in my blood is to be tough and resilient, and even if I'm outnumbered, like I will survive. You can take our women, you can take our freedom, or you can take our women, but you can never take our freedom. Actually, that wasn't a good example of my Scottish accent, but I do actually have a good Scottish accent. I practice. I'm a big old Brit. I don't understand Scottish accents, but I try. Okay, that wasn't good. But I practice. Sometimes I get it right. Um, what was I gonna say? Had something else. I got distracted about Scottish accents. Oh, my little warrior spirit. Being outnumbered, not being able to take pride in where you came from, but doing it anyway. That little warrior spirit, little survivor spirit. I just feel like so connected, and I am excited to write this story and eventually, maybe name a son Gabriel. But even if I don't name a son Gabriel and the screenplay gets produced, that's a baby too. That's like carrying on the legacy. Uh, there were also some other things in the historical context that I thought I could include in the tale. One was a very sweet love story where a McGregor man and Marianne, a woman from another clan, fell in love, and they couldn't be together because the McGregors were hated so much. So there's this like beautiful love story, Gaelic poem that is pretty popular over there, or popularish, I guess, over in Scotland. Scottish. Um, uh, oh, and the Kelpies. The Kelpies are these like tar covered horses that turn into women or something, that can like shapeshift into women, and it said that like only McGregors can tame them or something, which I believe because we are tough. You give us so much BS and we overcome it. So watch your step, Campbells. Watch your step. Yeah. So that's all I have about my ancestry. I find it fascinating. I can't wait to learn more. I do want to talk about the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, the Great Conjunction. I need to make notes on it. I'll try to do that tomorrow because next week I'll be at my dad's, and I can't really, like, I will feel weird being having these new agey videos, so I'll have to think of something else to talk about other than astrology houses and great conjunctions and all that. But yes, love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.